Hey, decision makers. Want to stay in the loop with exclusive content and the opportunity to be on the show? Text DECIDE to 218-432-9722 now, and let's get connected today.
Being able to make an impact and being able to change policy is something that I want to be at that point where I have a seat at the table to say that, this is important to be able to be more inclusive, to help create a bridge for a lot of students that feel disadvantaged, feel like they don't have a voice. Just having that seat at the table, I think, is very important.
Welcome to the Just a Decision podcast, where we speak to our guests about the decisions they made in life, the good, the bad, the regrets, the decisions they're currently making, and the decisions they're gonna make for the future. Subscribe, like, comment on the video, and don't forget to hit that notification bell. And remember, we're available on all streaming platforms.
Today, we travel to Washington, D.C., where my brother Javier Mena currently lives. What's going on, Javi?
Not much, man. How you doing?
Amazing.
Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you for inviting us into your home. This is a nice, community space?
Oh, this is the clubhouse.
Okay, nice. So, Lil Javi, what was Lil Javi like growing up?
I was a really fun, interactive kid. I played all the different sports. I was also a hustler.
Okay.
I was that kid selling lemonade, shoveling snow, whatever you wanted me to do to earn a quick buck. I was that person just hustling to try to get as much money as I can because, my mom couldn't afford to give me the things I wanted. Mm-hmm. She gave me the things I needed, So I had 2 pairs of shoes, one white pair, one black pair to make sure that I went with everything that I was able to have. Mm-hmm. But if I wanted those Jordans, I wanted that fresh Yankee fitted, I had to hustle and make my own money to be able to purchase the things that I wanted.
Okay.
So as a kid, I was kind of all over the place, but hustle was always on my mind.
Nice. Where'd you grow up at?
So I was actually born in Dominican Republic.
Okay.
So I grew up in Santo Domingo until the age of 6. I actually came to the United States in 1997. I grew up in North Bergen.
Okay.
So North Bergen, located in North Jersey, right outside New York City. It's an urban community.
Okay. Growing up, you talked about your mom. Was your mom and dad in the same household or?
Only for maybe the first 1 or 2 years of my life. And then they got divorced, and then we ended up moving to where my aunt is in Dominican Republic in a building there.
Okay.
But then most of my family were in the United States, mostly New York and New Jersey. So we decided to, move where everybody else was just to be close to family.
6 is a young age to move from one place to another. Do you remember that vividly?
Oh yeah, for sure.
So how was the change of coming from the DR to New Jersey?
Yeah. Luckily, my mom actually spoke English because she actually came here when she was a junior, finished up high school in George Washington High School, went to college. But then she met my dad while she was in college, and she decided to move back to Dominican Republic, to be with my father. So it was a little bit easy to kind of get acclimated because, she had a kind of an idea of what the culture, what the community was like, and then also have family members that spoke English, but then of course you have family members that don't speak a lick of English, and that was good too because I was able to maintain my Spanish, which I think is a perk. So I talked to my grandma, my aunts in Spanish, and then in the household it would be Spanglish. But also I was one of the younger siblings, so I have one of 3. And being one of the younger siblings, I was able to learn and grow at a faster rate because at 6 years old, you're like a sponge.
Yeah.
So I actually had to do ESL. So basically I had to, about 2 years, it took me 2 years for me to learn English. And then from there, I was able to acclimate into a regular classroom environment. Because I was so young, I was able to make that jump pretty quickly compared to my sister. I actually took her, until high school to be able to make that jump just because of the transition for her was a little bit harder being a little bit older than I was.
Okay. So you and all your 3 siblings moved all at once with your mom to Jersey?
So first, my mom brought my sister over. She stayed at my uncle's house, and then we kind of followed. But it was awesome because we actually moved into my uncle's house at first. So at least you have that family environment to kind of help you settle in. Mm-hmm. But then my mom was able to quickly find an apartment for us to live in. It was a bit rough though. We actually had a 2-bedroom apartment. My sister had to share a bed with my mom, and then me and my brother had to share a bunk bed, a room. But it was actually a really small room. So when you look back and you're thinking about, first coming to the country, your first apartment to where my mom is, where I am now, is such a big change.
Yeah.
So just kind of like humble beginnings. I always say to myself that I'm a 1.5 generation, which is different than a first generation student. The reason why I say that is because when you're first generation, you really have no idea what you're doing. You're the first in your family to really make that move. My mom went to high school and college here, but she went back to the Dominican Republic, right? And a lot of my family members didn't have college degrees or even graduate high school, so I also had to kind of learn a little bit of what my mom learned, but at the same time, I had to, use the resources in my community to help kind of accelerate, my life and my goals and my ambitions, and that's something that I take with me every day, just kind of, using your community and your network to kind of leverage different spaces.
Yeah. So you had to, learn English, and you said it took you about 2 years. How was that transition in the or not transition? How was that feeling in the classroom of, I want to be in the regular class, but I got to do what I got to do to learn what I need to learn to be in that class? Was there any feelings or emotions behind that?
Yeah, and that's something that I actually learned later on. I would say in college, I learned, I kind of like reflected on that because I try to be so Americanized where I was like, I just want to learn English. Like, my first name, I don't like anybody calling me by my first name, is a Latino name.
You want to share what your first name is, or you want to leave it alone?
It's Bienvenido.
Okay.
So Bienvenido, but nobody goes by that name. Nobody ever hears it, so I would always tell my, my teachers and my friends, like, hey, call me Javier. Like first day of classes, just going up to the teacher, just kind of just letting them know that my name is Javier and that's what I go by.
Yeah.
But then also too, as I was transitioning and trying to like learn everything, I did not want to listen to Latino music. I did not want to just be a typical Latino. I was like, I'm American. Like I'm in America. I want to be like every other American. And then when I went to college though, I really became in love with the idea of being Latino, learning about my culture, learning to dance bachata. Like I really didn't learn how to dance bachata merengue until I got to college, and learn about other Latino cultures. I got an award for the most prideful Latino in the club because, just reflecting back of pushing away the culture and what I came from, to assimilate to America. You have to learn that they're both going to be part of your identity, and it's important to embrace all your different identities. And I was able to kind of grow from that from a smaller age.
Nice. So high school. What was the transition of? Did you go to high school in North Bergen too?
Yes.
Okay.
I went to North Bergen High School.
Okay. So how was that transition? Was there a transition? Did everybody know each other in middle school? Go to the high school, so it was an easy transition?
Yeah, so the town is pretty big. I mean, the high school is about 2,500 students, and it's from 9 to 12. It was a pretty easy transition because I played in organized sports. We have a rec center, we have a league, and it's from kids from all over the town.
Okay.
So I was able to really recognize a lot of different people, but also I have family members, so like my cousins and also my siblings as well too. They were older than me, so a lot of people knew, hey, you're Jay's brother, you're Lizbeth's brother, you're this person's cousin. Like your coaches or teachers went to school with my older cousins. So I'll give you an example. So I'm born 1990. My grandma had 13 kids, and my mom was one of the younger ones. So a lot of my cousins are, maybe 5 to 10 years older than me. So that actually gave me, again, an opportunity to learn, and grow because I had that community and that network power to be able to connect me to when I got to high school.
Okay.
Especially, when it came to bullying. I'll give you an example. Like in high school, when it came to bullying, I was sometimes I was protected because they were like, no, that's Jay's brother. Like, let's leave him alone. Or that's Lisbeth's little brother. Like, I got you. I'll take care of you. So I think that was also beneficial once I got to high school for the transition period.
Cool. How was high school?
High school was a bit challenging in the beginning just because, you don't really get a lot of support from school counselors. I would say the biggest inspiration and mentors are going to be, the team captains, the coaches. Those are people that you've been your entire life growing up knowing because you play organized sports with them.
Yeah.
And then some of them are even related to one another. So I had coaches that their brothers were my coaches when I was in Little League, or in Pee Wees. So being able to, connect with those same coaches, I think really help get connected to the community and again, feel like you're supported, because they know like, oh, I heard about you, Mena. Like you're a really good kid. We want to make sure that you're on the right track. The first 2 years were difficult academically. I think that was a struggle. But then one of my coaches was like, look, man, if you want to play football, you're going to have to shape up. You're going to have to make sure that you do well academically. And after that, I got honors after that,
Nice.
So I think that just reflecting and kind of seeing the impact that somebody like that in my community can make, I wanted to be that leader and to continue to help me as I kind of progress. So for senior year, we had a transition. We had to shadow somebody in the industry for the high school. I actually shadowed my football coach, my head football coach, because he was the superintendent of schools as well. Well, actually, the assistant superintendent. So, I wanted to be not necessarily a teacher, but somebody in the community that can help change the narrative and the path of somebody's life and impact. So, being able to see it through his eyes have really helped me, take me to where I'm at now. It's really full circle, being that I'm in higher education administration, like, it's almost coming like full circle that I was able to shadow that person to then become that person in a way.
Yeah. Those you said the first 2 years you had trouble academically. What were those for the people watching? What were your troubles with those first 2 years?
To be honest, transitioning, I didn't really care about homework. I didn't really care about studying. I was pretty much like kind of just relying on my own intelligence. Like, I know that I could ace this test, but I didn't really get that support. Like, hey, this is why academics are important. Because even though my mom went to college, it's a bit different. The college experience of today versus when she went to college is different in New York City. You have the CUNY system. You just apply to all the different CUNYs. They tell you what school you go into, and you kind of just continue on that path. And then she also went back to Dominican Republic. She didn't really get to see what that impact had. My mom's, had to work to take care of 3 kids by herself over the years. And that was difficult. But I was not able to have that stable home life, like, having that mom and dad and, they had a traditional college experience, and being able to use that to help me kind of navigate, high school, I think would have definitely made a bigger impact, so I've been able to kind of have to make an impact through my mentors and leveraging network. But I think just academically, if I would have had more support into like the reasons why it's important to do well academically, I think that would have helped me along the way.
Nice. You kept saying organized sports. What was your sport of choice?
Well, baseball is always my favorite sport.
Okay.
But football was the sport that I was best at.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. You like to share one of your greatest moments in high school as you were featured on ESPN. How was that game? If you could go back and relive that game.
Yeah, no, it was a great moment because we were playing the number 1 player in the country. Will Hill, this guy, he ended up playing for the Giants, got a Super Bowl ring, played for the Ravens. So everybody, all eyes on him. And I remember we were at the goal line and the coach goes, Javier, go right in. And I was actually a junior at that time, so I was just, starting to really start and make some headway into the team. And I remember he ran a screenplay. So that means that the linemen are shifting. So I read that shift and I sprinted across and hit the quarterback, which then led to an interception. And my teammate ran it back 106 yards for a record in high school sports for touchdown returns.
Nice.
Yeah. So it was definitely a great moment. But that wasn't the only moment, I remember my coach actually was diagnosed with cancer. My coach, Vincent Ascus, which is a legendary coach Anybody that knows him from New Jersey, he actually told us that he had cancer, and our team wasn't having the best season that year, and we had previous seasons that we have excelled really, really well, and we were playing Union City High School. We had lost the game before to Memorial High School, and Union City High School students were actually making fun of us, because Memorial High School historically hasn't been a team that was competitive against, North Bergen. They're kind of like our neighboring rivals, So I remember that game, they were like, we got to win this for the coach. We decided at that moment that we were going to give it our all. And I remember just making plays left and right, just going out there and really making an impact. And I remember helping players up that I would make a play on, help them right up. And people would question, like, why is Javier helping other players? Because at the end of the day, like Michelle Obama says, when they go low, you go high, and that's something that, the way that I always carried myself is to make sure that you lead with a good heart, and having great sportsmanship. But I remember winning that game as well at the last second with a field goal. And I just remembering that embrace of the teammate, just cheering on, like, that we had this rivalry, and the way that they made us feel, and our coaches, we had a lot of heart. And that's something that our community, North Bergen, is known for, is having heart. That we play with our heart on our sleeves, and, we're ready to rally amongst one another.
Nice. So you said that was junior year. Going into your senior year, a lot of people decide on, am I going to the military? Am I going to further my education? Or some people just get that 9-to-5 job right after high school. What was going through your mind making those decisions and your next life decisions?
Yeah. Well, my school counselors, to be honest, they didn't really say anything about college or anything like that. They just said, here's your GPA. This is where you rank amongst the high school. And that's about it. Let's help you pick your classes for senior year. So there really wasn't that conversation about next steps. A lot of people in my community didn't go to college. So for them, it was working immediately or the military, like as you mentioned. A lot of people didn't even go to 4-year colleges, but I said, hey, I may not be able to get into like a 4-year institution, but I'm going to find a way to get there. And, my mom was very supportive. She went to college and she expected us to go to college. My sister actually was in college at the time, but then she ended up dropping out. At that moment, she ended up dropping out. My brother also had dropped out as well too. So really, I'm really the one of the siblings that had to make it. To really be the one to make my mom really happy, because again, she went to college and she wanted us to continue what she's been building. And being a single mom, she only wants the best for her kids. So for me, it was about, I'm gonna find a path. Like, I actually graduated high school in 2009. Okay. At the time, I had a lunch with my principal, and he asked me, what did I want to do? I said, I want to go into finance, because as I mentioned earlier, I was that kid that liked to hustle. Yeah. I was a big hustler, so my mom's like, look, you're really good at business. You're really good at networking, talking to people. I think you'll do really well in business. I actually wanted to be a history teacher because I love history. I'm big on history, but my mom said, like, hey, what jobs are you going to find that they're going to pay really well? So I think you should stick something that you're natural and you're really good at. So those are the different options that I had. But the only clear path that I had to get a 4-year degree was to go to community college, and that community college was Bergen Community College. And from there, I was able to really find myself even further, find my community, find mentors. We had a dean of students that was a Latino man, which was very uncommon, especially at most institutions like PWI. You don't see Latino males in leadership position, so being able to find, leaders like that and mentors really help propel me and help me kind of continue. But from community college, I also had the idea, like, look, I can't afford to go to college 6-7 years, so I had to make sure to graduate in 4 years. So most college students, community college students, actually take 8 years to graduate. From the moment that they start community college, they take on average 8 years, right? Most 4-year students take about 5 to 6 years to graduate college, but community college students are different because they have to work. They go to class part-time, so it does prolong the time that they take to graduate, but I had an idea that I wanted to graduate in 4 years, so I created a study plan, and then that study plan mapped out all the classes that I needed to graduate. They use a database system that said, hey, these are the courses that you need to transfer, because my idea was I'm going to go to state school because that's going to be the easiest path to graduate in 4 years. So I was looking at like Rutgers University, I was looking at Montclair State, I was looking at Rowan University, but also, coming from a rural and urban environment, I did not want to, stay in my community. I wanted to expand my horizon. I said, when I went to Bergen Community College, I met people from all walks of life. And I said, if I can have this growth in another community, just imagine if I went somewhere completely different from what I grew up in. Yeah. So I decided to go to Rowan University because it helped open.
Shout out to Rowan University.
Yeah. So it helped kind of put me in a traditional college setting, which is something that I really wanted. I want to go away to college, but then also expand my horizon because it was a PWI. It was in a rural community, so that allowed me to really grow as a person even further.
Cool. And the community college, what was your focus or do you pick a major?
Yes.
Okay. So what was your major?
Business administration.
Okay. And then with your, what was your idea with the business administration?
Yeah. So, I just wanted to, originally I wanted to do accounting because again, my principal said, what are you going to do with finance? Like the market crash, there's no jobs out there. Like, what are you really going to do? And I was like, well, if I can't do that, maybe I'll be an accountant because as an accountant, everybody needs accounting. Even if a company's doing bad, somebody still needs to make sure their books look clean, So I wanted to be an accountant. But when I transferred from Bergen Community College to Rowan, they were like, you need to take an extra year because you have to make all the prereqs for accounting and this and that, the way that the program was set up. And then you need to do a master's, right? You need to have 150 credits to be a certified CPA. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do business management, because if I ever want to get that CPA, if I get an MBA or a master's, I can eventually become a CPA. I'll figure it out, but at least I'll get a degree that I know that I'll do really well in. So that's why I just didn't change it to just plain business administration.
Okay. So how was Rowan?
Rowan was great,
That's where our paths crossed.
Yeah, and I wouldn't say that just because Josh is here, but I would say Rowan, it was different for sure. It was the first time that I ever felt like imposter syndrome. I have never felt less different than I did ever being at Rowan University, because growing up in a town that had 90%, 80% Latinos, it felt comfortable, right? And then when I went to the community college, there was a lot of Latinos there too. It's like a Hispanic serving institution, there's like 25, 30% Latinos. So there's an abundance of people that look like me. So when I went to Rowan, I'm like, wow, this is really different. The people, there are some people that look like me, but as a whole, there's definitely a lot of different ideologies. I didn't even know about Republicans. Think about that until I went to college, and I really didn't really know more about the political system, until I went to college, and I got really active when I was at Rowan, which is something that carried over from when I was at Bergen Community College, is that I came across people that were, disadvantaged, undocumented students, like the dreamers, so I had fraternity brothers, like Carlos Rojas, who once used to be undocumented, and, he actually used the fraternity as a way to help him, network and become part of student government, help pay for his tuition, and things like that really benefited him, so I think being part of a bigger community allows you to really expand and network, and Rowan was able to do that. I was able to actually meet people like Josh, people that really wanted to help you, really wanted to see you grow. And that's what I saw with my fraternity. And I think it opened my mind even more because, being in a multicultural fraternity, you're meeting people that are from all walks of life. Not just from an ethnicity standpoint, but from a perspective standpoint. So Republican versus Democrat. There's been brothers that had conversations about immigration and President Obama versus Mitt Romney. You got to learn from one another, and then also different religions. I met brothers that were Muslim, brothers that were Christians, and just being able to hear their perspective really allowed me to grow as an individual, because as we're interacting with people, as we get older from all walks of life, you kind of have a better understanding, and you build that empathy and that understanding to work better in different communities.
Yeah. You said you were involved in a lot of organizations, and I heard you use the term dreamers. Where's that come from, and how were you involved with that organization?
Yeah, so I was part of the New Jersey Dream Act Coalition in New Jersey. They were part of United with Dream. So United with Dream was a national organization looking to empower dreamers, and then became from the Dream Act. So the Dream Act basically said, if students have been here for several years, they were brought here at a very young age, but they grew up here, they went to high school here, that this law would help them create a path for them, and that path would eventually help them get citizenship. Because a lot of times these dreamers, they're your doctors or lawyers, they have all these degrees and attainments, but some of them couldn't even practice, or they would have to pay double the tuition. Even though they grew up here, they paid taxes here, they were required to pay double the tuition. That's something that we push for, like in New Jersey and many states, is flipping policies like that can help them be more supportive to communities like that. But I was also involved in other communities, such as, being president of the Latino club on campus. I was also in student government. I was a student government representative. I wrote for the newspaper as well too. Again, just expanding my horizon, but then also bringing people together. And that's what I like about PSP, my fraternity, because, they were able to bring, they really were the bridge between different organizations. So we were able to do events that brought the Latino club, the Black Student Union, whatever that is, bring them all together in one space to have a unified voice on campus. Even though Rowan University was kind of socially segregated in a way, the organization served as a vehicle to bring the community together, which actually I remember being part of a focus group with different members of the community to talk about how we can make improvements to the university. And that actually led to the creation of, I think it's like the society of a department, the social justice department. And I think that really helped provide more faculty and staff to create those different opportunities and resources for different communities at Rowan's campus.
Cool. So did you end up graduating with the business management?
Yes. Okay. I did it in 4 years. Yeah, I had to take summer, winter courses, to make sure that I stayed on that 4-year plan.
Okay.
Yeah.
So again, there's that big milestone when someone graduates and they're like, all right, I got my degree. What do I do next? What was your, your options in life, or what was your next decision that you made to further your career in life?
Yeah, I actually did not want to be done with Rowan University because I transferred into Rowan. I only had 2 years, and it felt like I was missing out on more experiences that I could get at Rowan University. I was trying to go into graduate school right after I graduated, but I realized that I did not apply in time. And that goes back to having, if you had a parent or a father that was around to understand the community, what you need to do to get a master's degree or career development. Just having that knowledge could have helped me get a master's even sooner. So I had to go back to North Jersey. And then in North Jersey, I actually, got a job at Verizon. Okay. One of my fraternity brothers, Jem Jefferson, the GOAT, one of the GOATs, he actually said, hey, we're hiring at Verizon, one of the stores. I know you're a great brother. I think you'll be great in this role. You should definitely apply. I applied. I got the job right on the spot, and I was working sales for a few years. I actually transitioned because they were like a authorized reseller. So my brother was actually working at Verizon. Okay. My brother worked at Verizon as well, but he was working at corporate, and that was like the big thing, like working at corporate, making a lot more money.
When you say authorized retailer and corporate? What's the difference in between those two?
So basically, authorized resellers, they're owned by a different company, not Verizon.
Okay.
They look like Verizon. They sell very similar things like Verizon, but they're run by a third party, like a franchise.
Okay.
Versus being owned directly by Verizon corporate. So, being a direct employee of Verizon versus a franchise. And corporate, again, is where the money was. The commission, I think that was important. If you want to make more money. I also wanted to get my master's, as I mentioned. And I said, hey, I want to be able to work at Verizon because I know they'll help me pay for my master's degree, get that MBA, that I was looking to get.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how was working for Verizon? From wanting to do business management and now you work in sales, was that the trajectory you wanted to go, or it was a pit stop to get that master's degree?
It was definitely a pit stop.
Okay.
I always had an idea that I would one day be, president of a company, vice president, somebody in leadership to help make an impact. But as I worked in corporate, I realized that, I just don't feel right working in a corporate environment, especially long term, when you're thinking about family, working weekends and holidays. It was just not what I wanted. For me, family is very important. So having a job that I know that I can make an impact, that I know that I can make money long term, for me, it was just a pissed out at that moment.
Okay. Did Verizon end up helping you with your master's?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So working at Verizon was really great because they had a program with Centenary University. And that program basically fit perfectly with Verizon that, classes were only once a week. Every 8 weeks you start a new course, and then you can get your MBA in 2 years.
So it's like an accelerated type of program?
Yeah, it's like accelerated, but still in the same time. Like it was like kind of like a two system. But a lot of my coworkers were in the program, from different corporate sites, which is another networking opportunities because you met managers or other coworkers, salespeople that were in your classroom. Or even people that work directly for the headquarters, because Verizon was headquartered in Baskin Ridge.
Okay.
So there was the employees that were working there that were in my classroom, and I was able to make those connections in the classroom as well too.
Okay. Did you have to go there physically, or was it online?
Yes, physically.
Okay.
Yeah, but at the time, when I got the job at corporate, I actually got a job in Rockville, Rockaway.
Okay.
Rockaway, New Jersey, and the campus for the college is actually in Parsippany. So on my way home, I was able to go to the class, and then after class, go all the way home. So it was kind of like a halfway point.
Okay.
So I make sure to have my schedule where I got out at 4:30, 4 p.m. And then go to class right after.
Nice. So did you end up graduating from that program?
Yeah. I got my MBA. Yeah, did it in 2 years.
Nice. What was that like? Is there what was the title of it? Is there an MBA or?
Yeah, so it's an MBA in business management.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, because I actually wanted to be in leadership. One of the things that I did was that when I was at Verizon, like I was really good at sales. I was definitely one of the top performers, but I realized that if you wanted to be in management, you need to change the way that you presented yourself. So one of the things that I learned from the different managers is I remember I interviewed right in the beginning. I was like, I want to be a manager. Like I have a degree. Not too many people in Verizon, have a degree, and my sales numbers are really solid. So they had a manager and training program, and I did the interview the first time. And after I did the interview, they were like, look, these are the things that you need to change. If you want to be a manager, this is what we're looking for, and then I was like, okay, bet. So then I started working with the manager and training program called Future Leaders. In that, basically, I decided to help others. So finding low performers and helping them improve, but then also improving my own sales, metrics. So it wasn't just about what makes you the most money, but also what made the managers, what made the company look good. So if there was a new product that they needed to push, being part of that group to say, hey, this is why it's important. We need to make sure that we put all eyes on these products. So making sure that you focus on different metrics, and when I did the second interview, I remember getting a lot of compliments because one of the things that I focused on is making sure that I had a really nice suit, had the pocket square, the tie, and that really went a long way because it showed that you actually came prepared. I had my resume, I had my folder. I made sure that I did a lot of my research. So I had all my data and analytics and things that I worked on to become a manager, and being direct and saying, I want to be a manager because I want to change these things. This is the type of impact that I'm going to have if you put me as a manager. And then they actually ended up saying, okay, Javier, there isn't any open spots right now, but what we're going to do is we're going to be launching a brand new store in Garden State Plaza. It's going to be our new flagship. It's going to be next generation stores. So all the stores that you see in Verizon, that was the store that they first decided to develop.
Okay.
They actually took me to a warehouse and showed me this is what the design is going to look like. We're going to practice. We're going to show you how we want you to change how we sell products. So I was able to meet with the VPs, the president of Verizon, right? All the networking, things like that. And they were coming to the store because, again, we're headquartered in New Jersey. So a lot of those important people were coming into the store, asking questions and a lot of eyes on you. And they were saying, look, this is the opportunity that you were asking for and you've been making strides. If you can show me that you excel, we're going to promote you. But before I left, I actually got lead performer, so I was hitting 250, 300% of my goals working at that store and being a leader, and I was awarded with that lead performer, which only a number of people actually get those type of awards,
Nice.
So I got like the largest raise and things like that, but I also, as I got more involved with my fraternity on the side, right, I was actually the expansion director. Then I served as the treasurer. I worked on regional teams. I realized that I have a passion for helping people. And again, I was kind of disheartened with the corporate world, saying like how I'm missing out on holidays, missing out on weekends where I could be with my family and friends. And I had the president of the fraternity at the time, Cesar Castro. Shout out to Cesar.
Shout out to Caesar.
Yeah, he actually is a person that I really admire because he came from humble beginnings. This is somebody that immigrated to this country, somebody that had to work his way through college, got his master's degree, and he became a career counselor at William Patterson University.
Okay.
And, and a lot of people looked up to Cesar. This is a really great individual that saw something in me and say, Javier, you have the ability to make an impact, your work ethic and, the way you are with people. A lot of people look up to you. You should definitely work in higher education. And he said to me, you're really good at sales, right? Why don't you try your shot in admissions? So before I got that manager offer, I jumped ship. But at that time, I was 26 years old. I already got my MBA. And I took that risk. It was literally a 50% pay cut, Yeah. Like I'm talking about like my first salary at admission was $35,000.
How was your housing arrangement? Like, were you on your own or were you?
I was on my own.
Okay.
So my mom had just sold the house. I was living on my own. But luckily, the director in admissions there at the college I was working at, she said, hey, I know one of our coworkers who's going to be leaving. Her apartment is going to be up for rent because she's going to be moving out. It's going to be $800 a month. Ooh. It's a basement apartment, but hey, I gotta figure out a way how to cut costs so I can, so I was able to find that apartment. It was next to the college.
Okay.
So I was like, look, I know that the work ethic that I have and it's just a matter of time of me putting in the work and time that the opportunity is going to come. And sure enough, over the years, I've been in admissions for 8 years. I've been able to finally make that transition into a manager role after 8 years of putting in work and time and working my way up and really making an impact.
Nice. Do you want to say where you're at now?
Yeah. So, and that's why I'm here in Washington, D.C.
Okay.
So I actually got a job with University of Maryland. So yeah.
That's why I'm wearing the hoodie, y'all.
Yeah, go Terps. So I got a job at University of Maryland. But interesting enough, in the pandemic, I actually got a job to be with Maryland as a regional recruiter. So I was still in New Jersey, recruiting for Maryland in New York City and Connecticut. But then, my boss actually ended up leaving, so I was like, hey, I'm going to take this risk because this is what I've been working for, and this is a great university, great culture. The people, it's more diverse. I no longer had that same level of imposter syndrome, because when you look at University of Maryland's admissions office or the university, there's people of color that are in those positions, and it made me feel more comfortable, and that's why I was like, what do I have to lose? So I was able to, money that I lost at pay cut, I was able to make that and more, so it took time, but I know that I worked my way up to be where I'm at. But now I have that work-life balance, and I think that's important for long-term when you're thinking about, your family, and building your future is you want to be in a good culture where you're happy, your mental health, you also have the time to spend with family. You also have the ability to move up, right? So this is only the start. I'm the youngest manager on my team, so I know that for me, it's only going to continue to go and upwards as I kind of progress in my career.
Nice. Right now, is your title as manager. What are your job responsibilities?
Yeah, so I'm an assistant director for regional recruitment and alumni relations. So I oversee our regional recruitment team. So we have 5 regional recruiters that are based throughout the country. So like California, Texas, Florida, New York, Chicago, right? And then I also manage our alumni relations kind of liaison for our office. So I directly get to work with university relations, alumni relations. So, with the different chapters across the country, we have a volunteer program. So helping recruit students with alumni. So if there's a culture that an alumni can help be at, my goal is to train them and send them all the materials that's needed to be able to represent Maryland at those high schools or those events.
Nice. Career-wise, is this where your focus was at, or do you see? Are you striving for more?
I mean, I definitely think it's a good place to start to learn to be a manager, especially because I have a really great team. I'm learning a lot from also the senior leadership. My director's been with Maryland for 20-something years. The person above him has 30-something years, so I'm taking that opportunity to really learn from them before I make my next move. So for right now, it's just a current situation that I feel like I'm really in a really good place, that eventually, as opportunities become available, I definitely will shoot for those high roles, because think about this, how many Latino males or just Latinos do you see in leadership, in higher education, right? How many VPs or deans or presidents of universities are Latinos or Latino males? And being able to make an impact and being able to change policy is something that I want to be at that point where I have a seat at the table to say that, this is important to be able to be more inclusive, to help, create a bridge for a lot of students that feel disadvantaged, feel like they don't have a voice. Just having that seat at the table, I think, is very important.
Nice. Well, I'm glad I've known you for all these years. Now it's going to be question times, and congratulations on all your endeavors.
Thank you.
First one is going to be that decision to leave New Jersey and come to Maryland. What were your thought processes, and what were some of the decisions where you're like, I don't know if I should do it, but what was the final decision on making that jump?
Yeah. Well, definitely the money, I had to make sure that the money makes sense, that it was more money, that it was comfortable enough, because you got to think about cost of living, so I did a search for what's the cost of living difference between New Jersey and Washington, D.C. or Maryland. And the cost of living was relatively the same, so I was like, well, I'm making more money, but I'm also moving to a place that the cost of living is relatively the same. So if I were to make that move, it's going to be, and I'm going to be in a pretty good shape. I also wanted to make sure that I lived in a good community, so I was looking for different communities. So I first actually moved to Maryland.
Okay.
So Columbia, Maryland. So Columbia, Maryland, for those that don't know, was actually created in the 70s as a cultural utopia. So there's diversity, there's a mall there, there's, restaurants and businesses. So I wanted it to be in a place that, there was a lot of things that were happening, but also in a safe, supportive community. So I felt like Columbia, Maryland was really good. But then also was only about 20 to 30 minutes away from where I lived, from where I worked and lived. So for me, I wanted to make sure to be near the university, especially because I actually have a cousin who goes to the University of Maryland.
Okay.
And when I first got the job, being able to help him find his home to be at University of Maryland, I wanted to make sure that I was nearby, that if I needed to be there to help him. Because I remember when he was moving in, I was there helping him move into his dorm room, helping, if he needed, to drop off some laundry, because he actually broke his leg. So I actually was helping him, taking his laundry to the dry cleaners, so I think, again, family's important to me, so I wanted to make sure to be that support system for younger siblings, just how my siblings and family members were supportive to me. So I think that's why I chose, to come to Maryland. But also, coming to Washington, D.C. Was my next move.
Okay.
And that's because I got really blessed with my wife, Mariama. Yeah, so she actually got a job in D.C., and, she wanted to be in Washington, D.C. Luckily, the university is only 4 miles away from Washington, D.C. So again, I could still be close enough proximity. Also, where we're located in downtown D.C., a lot of restaurants. The mall's only about 10 minutes away. So again, it kind of hit all the different boxes that I was looking for. But also, when I was thinking about culture as well, D.C., I definitely feel more at home in DC. And that's because it reminds me of growing up and going to New York City, being in New York City, having people from all walks of life, all the different embassies, restaurants, like we went to go eat at a Laos restaurant. You don't see a Laos restaurant in other parts, of the country, and even when thinking about things like a Dominican restaurant, when I looked up Dominican restaurants in Maryland, I could only find I could only find some in Baltimore and some in DC. I had moved to Columbia because it was close to Baltimore, but still close to campus. So when I made that decision to DC, it was like, well, I got my Dominican restaurants and people. At least there's not many, but at least there's at least a community that I could reach out to. Like Juan Zabala being Dominican, just having him there as well. And a lot of the fraternity brothers also live in DC, or in the DC metro area, so I think that made it even easier to know that you at least have people that you can look out for, because I remember we had to do a ceremony, called the Nikah. It's a Muslim ceremony that we had to do, and I needed people to support, because it was only in 2 weeks. We had to get it done 2 weeks after being engaged, and my family, they have their obligations. Like they can't just drop everything in a drop of a hat. My mom was able to come down and my sister and her boyfriend, but I was able to have some of my fraternity brothers that live in the DC metro area to be able to come out and support. I remember, and this is the power of the fraternity. So you actually are required to have a Muslim representative for the ceremony that can actually be a witness to the ceremony. And shout out to Mo Berry, who's actually one of our brothers from New Jersey. He actually moved to Maryland. And he actually was able to serve as that witness, that Muslim witness, to be part of the ceremony. If it wasn't for that, I don't know where else I would have found another Muslim person to be my witness. So I think that was awesome, to have that network and that community here in DC.
Cool. Second question: if you know how to recruit, you know how to recruit. So that person getting into that position of recruitment, what are some tips that are tips of the trade you would get to improve those numbers and targets they have to reach?
Yeah. I think data is something that a lot of people underutilize. So being able to understand the data, and then also working to, some of the people that have been in the game for 8 to 10 years, finding that mentorship, finding that experienced person that can help tie in the data. So, a lot of times recruiters, they say, we want you to recruit in Colorado. And you're like, I've never been to Colorado. This is my first time recruiting. I don't know the ins and outs of recruiting or Colorado. So finding an expert or somebody that's been in that field in Colorado, and using the data to kind of combine those experiences with the data to help you make the decisions to become a better recruiter, and building those inroads and those connections with the school counselors also help make it a little bit easier, because if you can build those connections with the counselors, they're going to keep helping you recruit more of their students, because they're going to keep saying, hey, you should look at University of Maryland. You can literally show up. I'll give you an example. They gave me Puerto Rico to recruit for the first time not this year, but last year was the first time I had to recruit for Puerto Rico, brand new territory. Yes, I am Latino. I may look Puerto Rican, but I am not Puerto Rican. I'm Dominican, So for me, it was definitely a new experience, So when I went to Puerto Rico, I had to meet all new people, all new counselors. But when I went back this year, you could tell the difference of me going to those high school visits that I went from having 0 people at those high school visits, or maybe 1 or 2, to showing up to a room full of students. And we actually were able to double our number of applications just by me building that connection and network, And I think that goes a long way. It's relationship building, again, using data to figure out, how you want to maximize your recruiting efforts.
Cool. Third question. It's going to be a hot seat. You introduced it already. So congratulations on your engagement.
Yeah.
That person that's internally trying to make the decision if that person should be their wife or not, what are the qualities that you looked for when finding a wife or your wife?
I would say somebody who is open-minded. I think, you're not going to want to be with somebody that's completely different. And if they are going to be different, if they're closed-minded, that's going to be a difficult task. So I think having somebody who's open-minded is going to help you grow in the relationship as you're kind of learning in one another. I would also say somebody that just wants to be with you, that's truly happy to be with you. So somebody that's positive-minded. So I think that whenever you date somebody who's a pessimist, I think that really dampers the relationship. So I think somebody who's very, positive and wants to, see life, kind of like a half glass full kind of mindset, I think really helps to grow the relationship and puts you in a really good environment because this is the person you're going to be living with long term. So I think that's important. Also, I think somebody that, has goals and ambitions, and the reason why I say that is you don't want to ever enter a relationship where things are going to be stagnant. You want to be able to grow as a couple financially, right? You want to get that house, you want to have kids, and if you have somebody that's goal driven, somebody that sees the vision that you also see, I think that's beneficial because if you want to get to that point, you need to have somebody that's going to be receptive, to that type of mindset. So I think those are 3 key elements in choosing your person is having those 3 characteristics.
Cool. How'd he do, Mariama?
Great.
We got the thumbs up. If y'all couldn't hear that, she said great. Again, bro, appreciate you for inviting me into your home. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. See you on the next one.